Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about Kinji Fukasaku's 2000 film Battle Royale. This is a Japanese film. There are versions of it dubbed into English, which is what I watched. I believe I have in the past watched a version of it with subtitles, but the most recent version that I watched through Amazon Prime, hashtag not sponsored, is dubbed into English. So it's an interesting dystopian film. American audiences today might find it very similar to something like The Hunger Games, in that the basic premise of Battle Royale is that there's a group of children, 9th graders, who are taken to a secret military-controlled island, given a minimal amount of supplies and some weapons, and basically forced to kill each other off over a period of 3 days. The premise of this, the reason that this happens in the film, is because supposedly... So this is... The reasoning is actually a little bit bizarre and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So this is in a near future in which the Japanese government has become extremely authoritarian. It has cracked down on basically all political and individualistic expression. But the country is plagued by children causing problems. So it's the thing that's a little bit weird about the setup for this is that you have, on the one hand, an authoritarian government that clearly has the ability to deploy military forces, because it does in the film, and yet on the other hand, there are children causing problems, and the government's like, we can't do anything. So they pass what's called the BR Act, which is the Battle Royale Act, which basically stipulates that every year, chosen at random, will be one class of students who will be sent somewhere, whether it's this island or different island, different location, whatever it is, and they will have to kill one another. Not real clear how that solves the problem, but, you know, yeah. It's a pretext for getting to what the film is actually about, which is the fighting. Now, this is generally quite gory. It is a horror / action thriller. There is a lot of blood. There is a lot of stabbing, shootings, etc., etc. But what's really interesting about Battle Royale is the exploration of human psychology that we get through this extreme situation in which these students are forced to fight one another. So what we see here, in a way, there's a Lord of the Flies kind of vibe to this, in the sense that some of the children are pretty much immediately like, yes, I will kill anyone. I don't even care. I embrace this, and I plan to live and to win. Because the prize, if you don't die, the prize for the one person who doesn't die, is that they get to go home. If more than one person is still alive at the end of the 3 days deadline, then these collars that have been put on them will explode and kill everybody. So then nobody wins. So it is a last person standing kind of situation. And so some of the students embrace this pretty much immediately, and like right out of the gate start murdering each other. Some of the students are like, oh, I really don't want to kill anybody, but I will if I have to. Like, I will defend myself, but I'm not going to actively go seek others out to kill them. Some of the students are like, I can't do this. I'm not going to be involved. And so at least 6 of the students kill themselves. 2 of them by jumping from the cliffs of the island into the ocean, and then I think 4 of them in 2 pairs hang themselves. So we've got these different reactions. There are a couple of groups who, in small groups, pool their resources to try and defeat the military establishment that's holding them on this island. Most of them are unsuccessful, but the primary group that we follow, which is Shuya Nanahara, Noriko Nakagawa, and Shogo Kawada. Shuya Nanahara is played by Tatsuya Fujiwara. Noriko Nakagawa is played by Aki Mediya. And Shogo Kawada is played by Taro Yamamoto, if that's of any help to you. So this group of 3, Shuya, Noriko, and Kawada, they have a very vague plan that largely involves them sort of getting to and joining up with this other group, led by a kid who's sort of weirdly prepared for anarchic rebellion, because I guess his uncle has just sort of traveled around the world joining various resistance groups and like has sent him a fuse for a bomb and bomb making instructions and things like this. And this kid hacks into the military computer system and basically disrupts the whole system. But then they get killed off because there's this so that guy and his 2 associates get killed by this guy who's not actually part of the class. Kawada is not actually part of the class either, but there's this other guy who was brought in just, I guess, because he really enjoyed killing off all of his friends when he did this originally. So he's brought in, and he's just sort of this like anarchic figure of chaotic violence who just goes around killing at random. So the point ultimately, and I'll talk more about Shuya, Noriko, and Kawada in a little bit, but the point that's really interesting about the film is we get this wide range of different reactions, and part of it is principled on the students' individual backgrounds. So like one girl who really embraces the violence, like we see a flashback to her as like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, something like this. She comes home from school, her mother is drunk, and we sort of find out that her mother has basically sold her or prostituted her out to this guy, and the girl ends up knocking him down the stairs, and he dies. So she's got this traumatic, violent incident in the past, and the way that it's set up, the idea is that it feeds her willingness to kill in this game. So we've got those kinds of things. And Shuya's mother abandoned him, and his father hanged himself. So we've got these traumatic experiences, but also these relationships between the students of like who has a crush on who, and who's best friends, and things like this. So all of these elements form their reactions. And so it's an interesting exploration of the different responses human beings have to stressful situation, in this case a combat situation, but also a situation where people have theoretically as much of a vested interest in betraying you as they do in working with you. So that's really interesting, because that, to me, actually suggests a on contemporary capitalism. Because one of the things about late capitalism, neoliberalism, is that we have this line of reasoning which says that everyone is responsible for themselves. Everyone is responsible. Like, if you want to make more money, then get a better education or work harder or whatever it is. Chances are you've seen these things posted on Facebook if you follow anything sort of political. But at the same time, this ignores the fact that traditionally workers have very little power individually, but when workers form unions, they're incredibly powerful. They are much better equipped, much better prepared to achieve the goals that they need to achieve. So that's an interesting bit. And I don't know how much Fukasaku, and incidentally, this Battle Royale is based on a novel, but I haven't read the novel, so I'm not really in a position to comment on that. I'm not sure how much Fukasaku is sort of building that commentary on late capitalism, and how much that's just a sort of interesting thing that shapes it in a minimal way. But anyway, so Shuya, Noriko, and Kawada, let's talk about them, because they actually end up gaming the system, in a sense. So Kawada is not part of this class. He's actually older, and he was in Battle Royale before. He was originally in it as a student, but he's come back basically to avenge his girlfriend, who he had to kill so that he could stay alive. And that's not as cold as it seems, because she shot him so that he would kill her, so that he would remain alive, because they were the last two who survived. So he's returned basically to take revenge on this character called Kitano, who actually is played by Takeshi Kitano. But Kitano was the 7th grade instructor of these group of students, who is now 9th graders, and he's basically running the battle. But Shuya, Noriko, and Kawada work together, and then when they end up as the last three, one of the things that we learn is that the collars that are fitted onto the students don't just monitor their heart rate and location, which is what they were told. It also has a microphone that feeds everything back to the base. So Kawada tells Shuya and Noriko that he worked with them so that they would be the last ones alive, because they would be easy to kill. And then we hear over the microphone 2 gunshots. Kawada is declared the winner. Kitano basically tells the military people there the operation is over and they can all go home. Kitano, for whatever reason, decides he's going to hang out on the island alone and wait for Kawada to come back, which he does. So Kawada comes limping in, very injured. And then Kitano sort of figures out that somehow or another, Kawada had turned off the necklace thing. He turned off the collar so that so that Kitano could not blow up his neck, which of course is what you want if you're basically staging a rebellion against this kind of military regime. And at that moment, Noriko and Shuya come in with guns ready to take out Kitano. And Kitano's basically like, yeah, fuck it, kill me. I don't even care. So we have this weird sort of ending where Kitano basically just like accepts his death. Which in a way makes sense because it seems like he's driven by this sort of despair. Like, he was driven out of the school initially, actually because one of Shuya's friends stabbed him in the ass. But he just sort of accepts his death. And then Shuya, Noriko, and Kawada get on a boat. Kawada dies on the boat. And we end the movie with Shuya and Noriko having gotten... Like, she's gone to her house in secret, because now they're both wanted fugitives. But she's gone to her house in secret to get the knife that their friend used to stab Kitano. And now they're basically just on the run. And it ends with... I don't remember exactly what the line is, but it's words to the effect of, now we both have weapons, and while we don't want to use them, we recognize that we may have to.